Hello everybody, Daniel from Spacedock here, and I'm currently in the process of writing a ship breakdown for the Nebula class from Star Trek, and in the course of researching that, it's kind of prompted me to talk about some of the kitbash background Federation ship designs from Star Trek The Next Generation, and how I think some opportunities were missed when that show was coming out, and some really great designs were allowed to stay in the far background and be forgotten for many years, when really I think they should have been center stage. Now, anyone who's watched TNG will know that pretty much every time a Federation admiral or a friendly ship of some description shows up, it's normally an Excelsior class or an Oberth class or something from the TMP late 23rd century period, reusing those old studio models. And as a result of this, the 2360s Federation aesthetic is pretty much limited to the Galaxy class, and we never really get to see too much of it across the course of the show, with the Nebula class being the only real example of a modern 2360s, 2350s Federation starship that actually gets to be center stage in a few episodes. Now this is because almost all of the models for other ships of this period were made for the Battle of Wolf 359 and for various other background shots like the shipbreaking yard in Unification, and they were made using parts from Galaxy class model kits and various other things that are lying around. They were all kit bashed. But to be perfectly honest, I think almost all of them look fantastic, like really high quality kit bashing work. Some of them look genuinely like they were designed from the ground up, and I think could easily have been used center stage in a lot of shots in the show, and I would have preferred to see them more often. We've got the gorgeous Cheyenne class with the 4 nacelles, which is a kind of shrunken version of the Galaxy class saucer, and a vertically mirrored copy of the Galaxy class's neck structure to make space for these 2 broad pylons with the nacelles on them. Completely relegated to the far background of shots, indistinguishable until modern Blu-ray remasters, and yet a really sharp looking ship. I'm a big fan of this design. We also have the Springfield class, which is a bit of an acquired taste. I'm not as much of a fan of this as I am of the others, but again it uses that really distinctive Galaxy class saucer style. The kind of angled brass structure in the center of the nacelles matches the Cheyenne class, and if nothing else, the underslung secondary hull with the curved pylons is very unique, and since this isn't a hero ship and didn't really need to stand on its own all that well, it does the job of injecting some more variety into the setting, and I see no reason why an admiral couldn't have been dropped off in one of these at some point in the show. Next up we have the various other varieties of the Nebula class. Now the Nebula class was a modular design that has 3 different prominent variants, the one we normally see with the torpedo and sensor pod on the top, and then 2 other versions, one with an S-Wax dish that we see on the USS Phoenix, and one with 2 smaller nacelles for an extra bit of acceleration that we see on the original version of the USS Melbourne before it was retconned and changed into an Excelsior class in the episode Emissary for Deep Space Nine. Now this again seems like an enormous missed opportunity. The Nebula class and its modularity is a fantastic in-universe explanation for saving some budget and having a bit of variety while still changing up the ship designs a bit. We could have seen these other versions of the Nebula class more often, but sadly we only ever really see the torpedo pod one most of the time, and that was the only one that got a 3D model when they later moved into those stages of production. Now before we move on to my big favourite at the end, I do need to acknowledge that there are 2 very dodgy looking ones in the Wolf 359 background kitbash variety. There's the Challenger class, which is okay. It's two warp nacelles attached to a saucer. The bottom warp nacelle is like strangely closer to the primary hull than the top one is, and it's angled weirdly. It all looks a bit strange. Ships with one nacelle or vertically oriented nacelles like this always look a little odd. But again, like the Springfield class, it does just inject a bit more variety in. Maybe this one isn't quite as deserving of a center stage depiction as the others, but hey, you can't win them all. Then we have the Freedom class, which is a single nacelle saucer section that's sometimes depicted as having like a weird Star Wars turbo laser under the saucer. Yeah, this one's not good. But I think the Springfield, the Cheyenne, and all of the Nebula variants are really cool designs, and by far the best of the bunch as far as I'm concerned is the New Orleans class frigate. Now this was another thrown together kit bash for background shots, and I think it's one of the coolest looking Star Trek ships ever. I love the diagonally sloped nacelle pylons, the thinner, longer nacelles, and the smaller version of the Galaxy class saucer with the larger, broader nameplate and registry and the bigger windows, just to show how much smaller the ship is. We hear ships referred to as frigates in dialogue, which we can maybe assume are New Orleans class, but sadly the ship itself was only ever seen in the background of Wolf 359 and in the shipbreaking yard and various other shots like that. Quite famously, the torpedo pods attached to the top of the saucer and one to the bottom are highlighter pens painted grey. And I love that detail. It's just an awesome little ode to the art of kit bashing because frankly, I think it looks great. You know, if you can stick a highlighter pen to something and paint it grey and it looks fantastic, then what's wrong with that? There's like the process doesn't matter. The end result was great, and this ship, I think, of all of these, really deserved to be center stage. We know from background information that O'Brien used to serve on a New Orleans class, the USS Rutledge, which gives it this implied background of having served in the Cardassian Wars, and sure, maybe they designed and made this model for no money, as quickly as possible, for a background shot, but I'd still much rather have seen this all the time than anachronistic Excelsior and Oberth class ships. They could have really given the mid-24th century a unique and consistent Starfleet aesthetic if we'd seen more Cheyennes, more New Orleans, more Springfield class ships across the course of the series, and I think it's a real shame that that opportunity was missed. Do let me know in the comments, what is your favourite of these forgotten Starfleet ships of the 2360s? Which do you think deserved more screen time and more attention? Because if we can dig up enough statistics and information, I'd love to give some of these ship breakdowns on Spacedock. But regardless, my compliments to the effects people and model builders who managed to create some really, really fantastic designs, even in the knowledge that they would only ever be a couple of pixels in the background of a debris field. Fantastic work. Thank you all for listening. This is Daniel from Spacedock, signing off. Thank you for watching Spacedock. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please do check out the links on the screen right now or in the description below for our Patreon and channel membership services. Anything you can pledge goes towards improving our team and our equipment and allowing us to put together bigger and more exciting video projects for you guys on the channel.